countdown is on, but you're not alone. This is Countdown to College, your weekly guide from Education Quest Foundation, here to help you plan, apply, and pay for college one step at a time. Gage and I are switching roles this week, so we can dig a little deeper in and learn about Gage's recent college experience, some advice that he has specifically for you that he wishes he knew before he went to college. So, Gage, thanks for relinquishing your host duties for 1 week.
Of course, Jason, happy to be here.
So let's jump right in. I don't like to mess around too much here. Why don't we start with a simple question? What surprised you most when you transitioned from high school to college?
Yeah, I think really the biggest thing for me was just the simple fact that you're responsible for everything now. Everything from, obviously your schedule in high school, like either, your counselor or like you and your teachers will kind of help put together your schedule every year. It's really up to you in college, like when you want to take your classes. Obviously, there's some that like, especially for your major, you'll need to take some like prerequisite classes for before you can take the next level. But pretty much you can still, arrange your schedule how you want. You can start when you want. Meals too. There's no, scheduled lunch hour that everyone goes to. You kind of have to figure out when you have time in between classes to eat. And that all just goes in with time management too, which really like there's no set time for homework. Nobody's watching you to make sure you wake up for your classes on time, which is something I struggled with a couple times. Um, yeah, your professors like they don't chase you down like some teachers in high school would. You're responsible for keeping up. If you have questions, you got to make sure you're asking the questions. And it's up to you to get involved too. Like I remember in high school, a lot of times teachers would be like, "Hey, I think you'd be great for this club. I think you'd be great for this sport." But once you get to college, it's really up to you to find out what you want to do and where you want to go. And so all that I found just really different from high school.
Yeah, you really just don't know how much other people helped you with things along the way until you're kind of on your own having to deal with it yourself. So,
Yeah,
um,
shout out to
no,
my
definitely a learning curve.
yeah, shout out to my mom for all the times that she woke me up for school.
I bet you appreciated it for sure. Like your
Yeah.
first week of college, you're like, man, I really love mom.
Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about the college classes and that. So what's something about college classes that you wish you knew before you went and scheduled and attended classes?
Yeah. So like I said, number one, the first thing is obviously you know, no one is there to check on you. So you got to make sure you are on top of your homework deadlines, when your exams are and everything. And once you just really set up a system for yourself, like I use like the reminders app on like my iPhone and like the calendar app and the notes app and everything. And so once you set up a system, it's actually like pretty easy going into classes. Like something I wish I had known was not to stress so much. I feel like there was like a little bit of like fear mongering from my high school teachers being like, college professors won't let this fly. Like, you won't be able to do this in college. And well, it's definitely like, professor by professor. I found in general that a lot of the times professors are willing to work with you. You just have to, have the courage to go up and talk to them and ask them questions because they really just want to see you succeed at the end of the day. Um, and also you'll enjoy classes a lot more, I feel like, than I had thought, especially once it comes to your major classes and you start to get into stuff that you're, actually like passionate and interested about. And that's where it kind of comes into like homework and exams are a lot less about like memorization. There is like, multiple choice exams here and there, but you're not going like through vocab terms and like memorizing their definitions. And exams aren't like, there are some true or false questions, but they're not all like, pretty strict and linear. It's a lot more about independent thinking and what your opinions are on certain things, and being able to voice your opinions is a really important part of college classes too. Um, and so that's where it comes into also asking for help because a lot of the times, people I feel like think that, office hours are, oh, I'm failing a class. I need to go into this professor's office hours and ask for extra credit or something. But really, like, even if you don't have a problem, go check out the office hours like once or twice, just so you can get a better relationship with your professor. Because that's where you can really start to build some connections. And I mean, I'm still in contact with some of my college professors now, and they'll help me out with stuff time to time. So building that connection is something I wish I had known earlier, because I didn't really do that until I was in my junior and senior year. I actually started going to office hours. Um, and then on that same line, while you're in class, note taking is going to be so important for you. And I didn't really take notes in high school, which was maybe my problem. And I feel like a lot of people go through that too, is,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't have to study in high school, so I don't have to study in college.
Right.
Don't do that. Not good. And also just take some time to figure out like what your note-taking style is. Like for me, I use my like iPad mini all the time because it's a perfect little notepad and I prefer like writing rather than typing. Some people prefer typing, so get a laptop or get a notebook, whatever works for you, figure it out and then stick with it.
Yeah, there was a blog that we wrote on educationquest.org a long time ago that talked about a lot of the stuff you're talking about and how you can kind of establish those habits in high school. So
Mhm.
for those of our listeners and watchers that are kind of out there, it'd be a good blog to go search the site for. And um, it's just it's a good opportunity where you still have that support structure there to kind of
Mhm.
learn these things, like what are your styles for note taking, how can you schedule stuff and maintain your ability to show up on time and things like that, and finding things. I'm an Uber tech guy, so I think I wrote one that was like a bunch of apps that would help you out in college. And those are things to start using, and figure out, like, is this something that helps me? So, just to make it a little easier on you when you're in college. So,
Yeah.
you've been out of college for a year.
Hmm.
What do you think mattered the most during your 4 years of college?
Oh, this is such a like introspective question, but I love it.
I said we were going to dig deep.
I know, I know. Um, I know, like after like really thinking about it for a second, I think it really just came down to my relationships and my connections was definitely one of the biggest things for me. And that's something that I feel like isn't talked enough about sometimes about college is really the networking opportunities you get and the connections because those are everything once you get into the real world. I mean, even as an adult, I'm still, networking and making new connections every day, just because that's kind of how the world runs. And so I think during those 4 years, like what really mattered was me, going out on a limb and talking to people that I maybe never would have talked to before. Even some of my friends that I've made that are now like my lifelong like college friends, like I don't know in high school if I would have like, went and out on a limb and talked to them the first time just because we come from such different places. But at the end of the day, we ended up being best friends. Who would have thought? So my relationships with my friends, I think, was really important. And also, like I talked about earlier, my professors. I still talk to some of my professors today. They still help me out with stuff from time to time. Um, Especially from like the transition out of college, professors were a big help. And so make sure you're building that connection with your professors. I also think what really mattered for me was the practical experience that I was able to get in college, like the hands-on learning. Like don't stress too much about your GPA. Well, I mean, don't fail out of college, but unless you're planning to go to graduate school, like your GPA isn't the end of the world. Instead, really, like what mattered more to me at least was like I was a theater major, so like my theater shows I got to do, where I got to go, act on stage, like hands-on, and the internships that I got to do. I did a social media internship in college, and I wouldn't be here right now if I didn't have that internship. So that taught me a lot of important things, even some more important things than I probably could have learned in some of my classes. And finally, just rest, I think mattered the most during my 4 years.
Hmm.
Burnout. isn't productive for you or your classes at all. And I don't think it's talked enough about how much it happens in college if you're not careful. So make sure that, during your school breaks or on your weekends or whenever you can find a spare moment, rest, take a nap. I'm a big like meditation guy actually, and so I like to do like morning and night meditations. Those were a big help to me during college. You just need rest, basically. So,
A
yeah.
reset button. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of my classmates when I was doing my master's degree was writing a thesis on relate like student academic educator relationships. And so he was looking at the difference between high school and college and how students kind of relate to those authority figures as he called them. And he said, it's really interesting because he expected there to be a bigger age gap like in high school, and that was
Hmm.
what he anticipated as his thesis was that would show to be correlated to the ability to build those relationships. And what he found is the gap between like a college professor and a college student was almost exactly the same as the gap between a high school teacher and a high school student. So it's like really just more about you, and that changes about you, I think, when you go to college of it becomes somewhere like you said earlier, you build friendships and relationships with your college professors, and it sounds weird as a high school student, I'm sure, to think that you're going to be friends with a teacher type of thing, but it's amazing how much help they are to you.
Yeah.
They're just good people, and it's part of the process, I think, too, of getting, as you said, to getting away from the GPA and the emphasis that's put on there, and this applicable work, and seeing them as colleagues and as the same as you would, someone else that's trying to help you get in your career and not someone who's kind of holding the gate for you. So it's interesting that you kind of picked up on that stuff. I find that really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
And
so that's what you learned. How about something you would have done differently, be it academically or personally?
ooh, okay. I wish definitely my freshman year I would have researched some of my like general education classes better because I ended up taking probably one of the like hardest science classes, and I did not need to do that. Because, like I said, I'm a theater major, so a lot of my stuff was English, literature focused, but you still have to take your gen eds. And so I had to take a science class, and I took a class called Descriptive Astronomy. Cause like, oh, astronomy, like it was called descriptive. So I'm like, I'll probably just like look at pictures of planets and like identify planets. No, you had to like calculate the distance, like if you're standing on the planet Mars looking at the sun, what is the Kelvin radius of the diameter or something? And I was way out of my league. I should have done more research into what the class was. And so definitely I think just differently, I would have actually spent a little bit more time on like some of my class schedules when I was first getting started. Do some research, ask if you have like upperclassmen friends, ask them, what science classes did you take your freshman year? Was it hard? What did you think? There's also, websites online that you can look up some of your classes or professors, and students will share their experiences in the past, either, good or bad. And that can kind of help inform you better so you don't take a way too high level of astronomy class than you're really meant to. Um,
Yeah,
and I
those
also
course
wish,
descriptions can be a little deceiving sometimes. You
yeah,
read it, you think this is gonna be awesome, and then you get in there, you're like,
yeah,
this is not what I read.
yeah. And I also wish I would have joined some more clubs, like rather than I joined some that related to my major, but I didn't really like there was like a yoga club and there was even like a campus squirrel club. Like I wish I would have done some more of those like fun one-off ones to like meet some more people outside of my major and my program. Um, but otherwise, like my real advice, like academically or personally, is just I feel like I live by this a lot too, though. Have no regrets. Like, go in, make your decisions, stand by your decisions. What's going to happen is going to happen. You'll learn something from everything, whether it's a good experience or a bad experience. So, really, I would have gone in and just I don't know if I would change anything really, you know. I learned a lot from everything. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I love that advice of just, accept the experience, experience everything. I've heard that a lot from people, and I think that's a really powerful thing to be able to say, this is what my experience is, and I'm going to embrace it, and take advantage of opportunities.
hmm.
I like what you said, step outside your comfort zone, try a club maybe that you wouldn't normally try or something, and enjoy it. I wish I would have done something like that. I wish I would have gotten involved more with some of those things. I took a lot of experiences, but it was just like whatever came to me, and I wasn't all that pointful with what I was doing. And
Yeah.
in life, there's a lot of small decisions that end up having like massive impacts on your life. Do you think of any of those things? Is there something that comes to mind that maybe, if I hadn't done this, I probably would be in an entirely different place right now?
Yeah. I think what it all goes back to is kind of a realization I had around my junior year that your career path is not defined by your major. Like I said, I am a theater major. And so the goal was at the time to obviously, be an actor. And that still is the goal too, because what I figured out is it doesn't have to be one thing or the other. What really changed my kind of perspective was around my junior year, I decided to go out on a limb. A friend had sent me this internship actually for social media and marketing. And I had done like some social media things in high school with some clubs and for a couple like volunteer organizations. And so I had a little bit of a marketing experience and background. But what I really discovered was that, I was a theater major, but at the core of theater is storytelling. And storytelling and being a good communicator can go so many different avenues than just, having to go be an actor. And so I decided to apply for this internship, even though it was way outside my major. I felt, very out of my realm of comfort. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here as an actor right now. Um, but I ended up going through with that internship, and what I found out was that I learned obviously more about marketing, but I found that, storytelling really holds a lot more value than just being an actor, that I actually have a lot of value as a marketer who has a storytelling background. And so because of that, I was able to figure out that, hey, I want to go into marketing and social media. Doesn't mean I have to give up acting. There's still plenty of stuff I can do in the community. But what I can do is keep this internship going and then go start a professional career after college in social media and marketing. And that's what I'm doing today. I literally would not be here if I had not taken that internship. So, I mean, like we talked about, like if someone gives you an opportunity or something comes your way, or if something's outside your major and you're not really sure if it goes with your career path, just do it anyway, because it really might.
Gage, college is often hyped as the best years of your life. But everyone has a little bit different experience. You talked a lot about yours. Do you feel like it lived up to that, the best years of my life hype?
I think they were great. I had a lot of fun and I learned a lot, but I'm hesitant to call them, and I'm hesitant when anyone calls them the best years of your life. I am 23. I've barely lived any of my life yet. There's like so much more for me to experience still. And so, I had a really good time and I loved, reminisce, but I don't feel like my life is over after college. I feel like I barely even peaked yet. And honestly, I feel, a lot more freedom and flexibility and happiness than I ever did in college, just because now I can get off of work and not have to worry about like 8 exams and essays that I have to fill out. So
No more homework.
yeah. So yeah, like, and I also too, like, just for a little bit more context, I started college. I graduated high school in 2020. So the first 2 years of my college experience were really kind of, blown up by COVID. Um, but I still managed to have like a good time, and I still had a good time my junior and senior year when we weren't without that. But I think something that's really important is just to know that your life is not over. In fact, it has barely started, and so you have a lot more best years of your life to experience still.
I can kind of relate as a parent. There's a saying, the terrible twos, and I know a lot of parents that said whoever says it's the terrible twos never had a 3-year-old. And I like when you say that, like that's what I think of because I'm like, yeah, the people who said, high school was the best time of my life, like probably didn't go to college. And same thing here. I think some people get so caught up in that experience when they're there, but it's amazing what the next experience is. And
hmm
so this is just kind of setting you up, like you said, kind of setting you up for what that next step is. And so don't feel sad too much about graduation if you're approaching that here. So now that you're working full time, do you look back on college and say like it looks different now than it looked when I was there?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, especially I just remember being so stressed all the time in college, and then now when I look back, I'm like, oh, you know what? It wasn't really that serious. Like I could have just chilled out a little bit more, but really like all those, hardships and all the stressful times just set me up for where I am today. So now I'm kind of more grateful for the experience. Um, I think definitely now I still have some, friends that are underclassmen still in college, just from when I was a senior. And I think even their experience is a lot different now with, the growing expansion of AI and all that is something that I didn't really have my first 2 years of college. So I feel like studying definitely looks a lot different now. And I also think too, what I kind of realized looking back is the like adulting part of life actually starts in college, not after you graduate. Like I didn't
Yeah.
realize it at the time, but I had to get an apartment my sophomore year. I had to work part-time so I could pay for that apartment. I had to make my own independent decisions, meal plan, all that sort of stuff. But looking back now, I can kind of see how that made the transition out of college actually easier for myself by tackling some of those bigger adulting milestones like early on in my college career.
Yeah. Yeah, like we've said before, it's so much about the experience.
Yeah.
So we certainly have listeners and viewers right now that are high school seniors enjoying summer, about to start college. What kind of advice would you have for them? They're a month or two away from this experience that you've been through. Can you reach out to them with anything right now?
Yeah. I think, a big kind of through line of like a lot of the stuff I've been talking about today is just don't obsess over having like the perfect college experience. Because number one, that doesn't exist. But and like number two, like I talked about, like the first 2 years of my college experience were, completely thrown out the window because of COVID. But, I didn't really let that stop me from having a good time. Was it, the college experience that I had, seen in movies and TV shows growing up? No, not really. And I don't think that experience really exists anyway without COVID. And so what your college experience is really what you make of it. There's going to be hard times, there's going to be stress, but there's also going to be times where you get to hang out with your friends and, have good experiences together. And so I think if you focus a lot more on like the present moment while you're in it, you'll stress a lot less about trying to have the perfect experience. Really just focus instead on, pushing yourself to grow in whatever way you can, like academically, but also invest a lot in the people around you and the relationships around you, like we've, talked about for this whole podcast, basically. So,
Definitely. Yeah. So, what's something that you wish that's great advice? What's something that you wish, maybe some advice that you would have been given about life after college while you were still in college?
yeah, I have. I mean, like you said, it's been a year now, so I'm kind of like a year out here. Um,
So you're saying we got
number,
like come back in like 5 years, ask the same question and see
yeah,
if
we'll
we
do
get
5,
the same
10, 15.
answer.
Yeah. Number one, I think you'll miss the structure more than you think that your college classes and everything provide. Um, and so like I kind of talked about before with like the adulting stuff, start building. I wish somebody had told me to start building like your own habits more early on because even like your senior year of college, when your schedule's a little bit more lax, like start building in some time for, oh, I'm gonna go walk like every single day at noon, or I'm gonna do like a morning walk every single day. Something that you can start to build in some little structured bits of your day so that when you get out of college and you're working, or maybe you just have a part-time job when you get out of college, or you're not in classes anymore, you'll still have things that like, oh, you know what? At 6 o'clock, I have my yoga to do. So let me get this stuff done first. Um, just because otherwise you kind of throw yourself out there and you're like, huh, I have work, but I got off of work and now I want to, I don't know, I want to start a podcast. I want to learn how to knit. You have so much you want to do, but you have to build it in a little bit so you can get your stuff done. Um, and number two, like I talked about earlier, like your major does not define your life. You'll get your degree, but what you can do with it is unlimited. You know, your skills and experiences are definitely going to outweigh your degree every time. And so even if you have a degree, like don't be afraid to learn some skills on the side that don't relate at all because like I said, I'm a theater major. I found real value though in my ability for storytelling in other avenues that weren't just theater. So yeah,
We're certainly glad it brought you to us, that's for sure. So,
happy to be here.
well, I think that wraps it up nicely. Thank you, Gage, again so much for sharing your experience. I'm sure that it was massively helpful to the audience.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
So, if you ever need help with anything college related, contact an Education Quest office near you for free help. You can find our contact information or schedule an appointment at educationquest.org. While you're there, sign up for our weekly Countdown to College email that's filled with tips and tricks for you as you're going to college. So, easy thing to do to stay up to date on that messaging. Help us get this message out to as many students and families as possible by subscribing to this podcast on your favorite platform and make sure you hit that like button on this episode. Thanks for listening and watching, and we will see you next week.